It was a crisp autumn evening in Chicago, and the city was beginning to wind down. After a long day, people were heading home, restaurants were filling with hungry customers, and the skyline shimmered against the darkening sky. Nestled in the heart of the city was the Lindenwood Hotel, a historic building known for its charm and classic architecture. The lobby buzzed with life as guests checked in for the night, some attending a nearby conference. Others visiting for leisure. Among them was Jonathan Craig, a former firefighter turned building inspector who had come to the city for a few days to attend a safety seminar. His eyes immediately caught the aged fire alarm system in the hotel, and he made a mental note to mention it in his review upstairs on the 7th floor. Children laughed as they played in the hallway. A birthday party was underway for a young girl named Emily, whose parents had rented out the top-floor lounge for a private celebration. The night was unfolding beautifully with cake balloons and music echoing through the corridors downstairs. In the kitchen, a faulty gas line hissed quietly. Unnoticed, the smell was faint, masked by the aromas of dinner being prepared at 8:43 p.m. A small spark from an old outlet ignited the gas with a sudden explosion. The kitchen erupted into flames, sending a shockwave through the ground floor. Guests screamed alarms, belatedly blared, and panic swept through the building. Smoke poured into the hallways, thick and black. Jonathan, who had just returned to his room after dinner, felt the tremor from the blast instinct kicked in. Without hesitation, he grabbed a towel, soaked it in water, and covered his mouth, then rushed out to assess the situation. What he saw in the stairwell was chaos, people scrambling, children crying, staff shouting over the blaring alarm. But the elevator was down, and several exits were blocked by fire. Jonathan took charge, directing people down the safest stairwell, helping an elderly couple down step by step. Then he heard a woman shout, "My daughter is still upstairs. 7th floor room, 717. He froze for a moment, then turned and ran back up. Smoke stung his eyes, but he pushed forward his training, guiding him through the haze on the 7th floor. The fire had not yet reached, but the smoke was thick and rising fast. Jonathan banged on doors, shouting for occupants to evacuate. Then he reached room 717. He pounded on the door, calling for Emily inside. A faint cry answered. He kicked open the door and found the little girl curled under a bed, coughing, her face red with fear. He wrapped her in a blanket, lifted her into his arms, and began the trek back down. Flames licked the edges of the stairwell, and each step down was harder than the last. But Jonathan didn't stop outside. Firefighters had arrived and were setting up ladders and hoses. The fire was spreading rapidly, threatening the entire structure. Just as Jonathan reached the 3rd floor, a ceiling beam collapsed, narrowly missing him. He shielded Emily and kept going, finally emerging into the fresh night air. To cheers from the crowd, the mother rushed forward, tears streaming as she took her daughter in her arms. Jonathan collapsed to his knees, coughing. But alive, the news spread quickly. Headlines the next morning read, "Former firefighter saves child from blazing hotel." The mayor honored him. The hotel pledged to upgrade its safety systems, and Emily's family stayed in touch with Jonathan, who became a quiet symbol of heroism in a time of panic. But for Jonathan, it wasn't about fame or praise. It was about doing what needed to be done. He knew that fire didn't wait for hesitation, and lives hung in the balance of seconds. So when the flames rose, he rose with them, a hero. Once again, just when the city needed him most, the story continues with Jonathan being approached by safety advocates to help revise fire codes for older buildings, realizing the importance of updated systems. He worked tirelessly to create better inspection protocols. He spoke at schools, hospitals, and city councils, sharing his story and urging people to take fire safety seriously each time he told the tale. It wasn't to boast, but to plant a seed of preparedness in others. He partnered with local fire departments to create training videos and even helped design drills for hotels, schools, and office buildings. He became the face of a movement not by choice, but by example. His quiet strength and unwavering resolve inspired others to act one winter evening. Jonathan received a letter from a young girl named Maya, who had watched one of his talks at her school. She wrote that because of him, she had learned how to create an evacuation plan for her family, and during a small fire in their home, she had led her siblings safely outside. Jonathan kept that letter on his desk, a constant reminder that his actions had a ripple effect that extended far beyond that one night in Chicago. Years passed, but the memory of the Lindenwood fire remained vivid. Jonathan was invited to speak at the 10-year anniversary.